in the writings. If you don't mind, could you share with me your experiences during the referendum? I understand that it was a 3-day operation. 2 days were spent just putting it up, bringing it down, and actually the polling station was at a very dangerous place, or the most dangerous place for the vehicles, because I think it was called ID Elbow or something.
Right. The polling station that we were in charge was at a school, and you're right. It's the location is known as IED Elbow, and that's where the school is. And
was there any grumblings amongst? Because I assume this is just an order that came down that wasn't really very well thought through to put the polling station at. I was told it was considered Indian country.
Right. I think that the fact was they want these polling stations spread out throughout the city, and this was the best location that we can come up with that were somewhat secured. But I think the insurgents knew that that was the most likely place that we would occupy for these polling stations, because they had already pre-planted several IEDs around the schools and some inside the schools themselves.
Yeah, I understand that there was one IED that detonated just a few feet away from an Army truck, and actually it exploded not very far from Lieutenant Larson and his Corpsman McIntosh, I think it was. And I understand you were still working or in charge of the Casevac?
Yes.
Okay. Would you tell me a little bit about that day?
I don't recall evacuating Lieutenant Larson, but I know that they were hit by an IED that day along with the doc. But I think by the time we had gotten there to evacuate the Iraqi soldiers, they were already taken by another crew or another team to Charlie Med. But I can tell you that the location of that polling site is located not only on IED Elbow, but 200 meters east of that is 342. It's checkpoint 342, and that's every day you drive by that, and it's an IED there. You can pretty much guarantee you'll get attacked there as well.
Checkpoint 342, and that was to the east.
To the east.
Okay, and there was a couple of insurgents that were killed there one night because they were setting up some IEDs.
Yes.
So it was a pretty common place to put IEDs.
Yeah, it's very common, because anytime we had to use that checkpoint, there's always craters and holes there, and checkpoint 342 is significant because that's where we had another significant event on November 1st.
Okay.
Where we lost two Marines, a Marine and a sailor.
And this was October 1st?
November.
Oh, November 1st.
Yes, 1 November. That's after the referendum voting.
And the referendum was, I'm sure the dates are kind of sketchy, but this was October 14th to the 16th, about that time?
That's about that time, yes.
Okay. What do you recall about that day?
The referendum, I recall going up there and clearing the school, setting up the security, the wire and the fence and everything like that.
And this was all early in the morning?
Yes, okay. Very early in the morning. 3-4 days of trying to get that thing set up, and of the 3 or 4 days, there's always significant contact, meaning we had a guy pulling out RPG, hit one of our vehicles, but didn't sustain any major impact or injuries. We had to escalate force on an ambulance or one of the vehicle that was trying to approach the checkpoint and didn't slow down, and we escalate force on that and had to evacuate one of the wounded from that. We cleared several IEDs around the schools. We had to call EOD on several occasions to clear out IEDs. But it was a long operation. But we felt that it was successful because we saw 1 or 2, I think, came out to vote. But it was like really our first, not first big event, but it was our we had a good working relationship with the IAs. We felt that, yeah, you know, these guys are capable of holding security, and we can work with these guys.
There was actually, wasn't there an RPG attack where 2 Iraqis were wounded that day? I believe they were in one of the reinforced trucks.
And one of the trucks that get hit, I don't know if it was an RPG or an IED, but yes, yeah. I think I was back at the firm base when that was going on.
Okay.
But I heard the call, but I wasn't involved in the evacuation for that.
So during that day, you were probably more administrative, kind of taking care of supplies and stuff like that. Because I imagine just running from the firm base, you were safe.
Yes.
Which was at Snake Pit?
Camp Snake Pit, yes.
To IED Alley, I imagine was pretty frustrating.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't bad. The frustration. There was really no. The frustration was not with the logistics. I think the frustration was with all the madness that we had to go through to establish the polling site.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Well, I understand the relationship with the Iraqis was good. They would fight with you, but sometimes it was hard to actually get them to do some of the physical work. Like sometimes, from what I understand, the Marines set up security around the school, and the Iraqis were tasked with hardening the building.
Right.
And I assume in their eyes, they felt like they were being neglected because the Marines were sitting down in these buildings in shade, and they were being forced to harden the building, carrying sandbags and stuff. Do you recall any that kind of relationship with the Iraqis?
That frustration was always there. You know, the Iraqis they're on Iraqi time, so you tell them to be a mission goes at a certain time. You got to pull teeth to get them out there sometimes, but they got better later on once we built that relationship with them. But as far as the frustration internally with them, having to work and all that, I didn't see any of that.
Okay.
I was kind of like on the outside. I wasn't in the platoon level looking at how those guys were doing.
But you brought it up earlier, you said the relationship with the Iraqis was actually pretty good, the Iraqi army?
Yes.
Okay. And so at that time, you know, those of us who were still in the States watching the news at that time, because this was shortly after the Fallujah, was the fact that there was entire battalions of Iraqis who didn't want to fight, it wasn't their war.
Right.
But that wasn't the same thing that was happening in Ramadi, per se?
No, I don't think it was the same thing that was happening. These guys, I think once we built that rapport with them, I mean, they were just like one of our brothers, and they were just needed to be trained properly. And you know, once they see that those guys will take a bullet for you in a heartbeat, and our Marines would do the same thing. So I mean, once you got that relationship going, they worked very hard for us. And
that relationship was established by living in close proximity
right.
to each other. So at the Snake Pit, y'all were sharing facilities there with them?
We did. I think we were the first company to actually build new buildings for them, put up a new chow hall for them and everything like that. And we lived and worked, and I actually played with them daily as far as like physical activity, playing soccer and basketball and stuff like that too.
And a lot of this was Captain Mines who was kind of pushing the work with the Iraqis, or is this just Marines and, you know, anytime you go on a deployment somewhere, be it Korea or Thailand, right. You're always going to end up eventually hanging out with the nationals there. Is that kind of what happened at Snake Pit?
No, I mean, that was driven by our XO, Lieutenant Watson. He was very passionate about developing the IAs and us having a good relationship with him and wanting to share our workspaces and, you know, living spaces with them and stuff like that.
So was there kind of like a little teething problem there at the beginning of doing this, or was it the Marines didn't really have any problem with it?
Oh, there were some frustration with some of the Marines because, you know, Iraqis tend to have sticky fingers